Ladies and gentlemen, call this meeting to order, the Mayor and Board of Commissioners for May 10th, 2022. Can I get the roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Braun?
Yeah.
Commissioner Pearson?
Here.
Commissioner Warnick?
Here.
Let the record show you do have a quorum.
Will you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You bow your heads with me for a brief prayer. Father God, I come to you tonight on behalf of our town, Lord. I ask you watch over our citizens and our elected body. Watch over our first responders, our police department. Be with our troops that are serving here and overseas, Lord. Be with our veterans. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Could I just ask one little favor? The first time any of us speak, that we address our names so the people who are watching it.
Is your mic not on? Because it sure doesn't sound like it.
There you go. Okay. You want me to start over, Dennis? So anyway. Well, I'm Commissioner Augie Pearson, and as I started to say, is each of us speak just one time. We address who we are so people that are watching know, put a face to our names.
I'm Travis Marion, and I'm the mayor. First on the agenda is a Ordinance 2022-01, which is amending and creating of zoning districts. Town Administrator, do you have that, please?
Yes, I do, Mayor. And for the record, my name is Calvin A. Bonenberger Jr., and I'm the Town Administrator. So, elected body and audience, what you have before you tonight is Ordinance 2022-01. You may recall back in early February, this ordinance was presented to you for consideration, and this ordinance would amend the existing zoning code to change the name of a couple of the zoning districts, and more importantly, to create some new zoning districts that were developed as part of the town's comprehensive plan. As required by law, the board read the ordinance at that time into the record. They instructed the Planning Commission, although the recommendation for the change came from the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission was instructed to look at the ordinance and its format and to basically sign off on the format and submit it to the board. Also in accordance to law, the elected body placed an advertisement in the newspaper regarding this ordinance 2022-01. And we don't have to read it into the record again because it was already done. But basically, as you are familiar with, the town had a series of zoning districts, and they created some new zoning districts, and that's primarily what this ordinance is about. They are creating a new rural estate district, a new rural residential district. They're changing the name from light commercial to limited commercial. They are creating an Old Town commercial, an employment center district, a rural business district, and then in addition to that, and this is a subtle thing, but I think important, that the title of this and this is essentially a zoning code, but for whatever reason, when they originally made the zoning code, they gave the name of the zoning code as the zoning ordinance. And that creates a little bit of confusion because an ordinance is something that the elected body adopts or uses to adopt a code. So basically, this is going to change the name of the zoning code from the zoning ordinance to the zoning code.
And this has already been read into record.
This has already been read into the record. It was again considered on February 8th, sent to the Planning Commission on February 14th. It was then, a recommendation was given back to the mayor and commissioners on March 10th, And here you are tonight with the ability to adopt this ordinance.
And the document itself was posted on our website, correct?
Yes.
All right, can I get a motion to approve ordinance 2022-01, the amending and creating of zoning districts?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion regarding ordinance 2022-01? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance 2022-01 passes. Town Administrator, ordinance 2022-02, which is the comprehensive zoning Phase 1.
Okay, so the overview is pretty much similar in terms of the dates and times. The elected body was presented the ordinance on February 8th. They then turned it over, and it was read into the record. It was turned over to the Planning Commission to review it one last time, and that was done on February 14th, and you have it here before you tonight to vote on it. There are 3 changes that were made to the ordinance. If you recall, the ordinance basically references 15 separate attachments that all provide the legal background on each of the properties that are being considered for a change. It was a total of 15 exhibits. There was, this ordinance tonight does not include Exhibit 3, which had to do with the Stevens Preserve, in which the zoning was going to be changed on the Stevens Preserve property. This ordinance does not contain that exhibit. The other exhibit that is removed from it is Exhibit 11, which contain the Armstrong Cable properties on Cooper Avenue and the Goody property at number 8 Cooper Avenue. Those have been removed from the proposed zoning changes. And then the last one is Exhibit 14, which is essentially the Fawcett properties, basically right across the street here from the Legion Post. So you all saw the email from the town attorney making a recommendation that the ordinance be approved as it is submitted. If this ordinance is approved, the zoning changes. There's one little caveat. Normally, an ordinance doesn't take effect until 20 days after it has been adopted, but since we are changing zoning districts, it can't take effect at least for 20 days or until the zoning map, an official zoning map is created to reflect the zoning changes. So it's not going to take effect any earlier than 20 days or as long as it takes to get the updated zoning map created.
And you've been in contact with the landowners whose exhibits were removed?
Yes.
Is that correct? And they're
Yes.
aware?
Yes,
And this document was also posted on our website as well?
yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 2022-02?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion regarding ordinance 2022-02?
We will review those at a later date, correct?
Yes. Basically, what we're doing is we're still doing work with the table of permissible uses, and some of the property owners had raised some concerns about what may or may not be in the revised table of permissible uses. And I think it's important to note, there was a misconception that started at our meeting back in early March that the town did not have a table of permissible uses. That is not the case. The town does have a table of permissible uses. We are in the process of modifying that. And again, I think it's also important to note that the town is trying to grow its business community. And one of the things we're trying to do is to update a document that was created back in the early 70s and has language that's not even consistent with what is in the town. So our goal is to create a much more expansive and easier to navigate table of permissible uses that will be beneficial for the businesses in the community.
Are there any more discussions regarding ordinance 2022-02? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance 2022-02 passes. Thank you, Town Administrator. There is a public presentation tonight from Plumpton Park Zoo. Do you have that, Town Administrator?
Yes, I do. So this is something that we're really excited about being able to share with the community. I don't think there's anybody, probably in Cecil County, that has not at one time or another visited the Plumpton Park Zoo. It's an amazing, basically family-owned zoo that we have Cheryl Lakova here tonight to do a presentation. But one of the things I think is amazing is that when she and her husband, Nicholas, took over the zoo back in 2010, I believe it was, the average attendance was about 25 to 28,000 people per year visiting the zoo. They are up over 100,000 people that visit the zoo. And when you put that in perspective, the total population of Cecil County is roughly 104,000 people. So in our discussions with the zoo in the past, they have told us about a lot of things that people might not be aware of. For instance, a lot of the educational facilities in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and Maryland have various agreements with the zoo where they bring school-age children to the zoo for different visits. And there are some senior facilities who bring seniors to visit the zoo. So it's an incredible attribute to the Rising Sun region. And not to speak for the mayor, but the mayor has always guided us in the direction of providing as much support for the zoo as we possibly can. So they have some issues that they want to discuss tonight and bring to everybody's attention. So with that, Cheryl, Board, have I introduced Cheryl Lakova?
I don't know if this is on. I want to thank everyone for allowing us to come and speak. It's been 10 years already, or 11 years, possibly. Yeah, we're going on 11 years now. We have done incredible things at the zoo, and it's all because of our community. Our community has supported us tremendously from day one. If we needed something, we could reach out to the community, and they would try their darndest to get it to us if they could. I do have some issues. I call it a crossroads right now. We have to make decisions for our future, but we want to make those decisions with our community because you guys has helped us so much. So I'd like to go through a little bit of the history, our accomplishments, as well as where we want to go in the future. And I also have some goodies for people to see. So, Charlene? Quick brief history of the zoo. I think everyone knows that the zoo closed in 2010. It was owned by Mr. Plumstead. Mr. Plumstead at the time was 83 years old, and he just couldn't keep up with the decline of what was going on around him. We stepped in. It closed in July. We stepped in August, and with the community's help, we reopened Plumpton Park Zoo in October of 2010. Ever since, we have been rebuilding, and it's a rebuild of not just fixing what's there, it's taking down and starting over. I would have to say there's probably about 95% of the old structures are gone. I think Jimmy's Barn, everybody knows, was probably one of our biggest accomplishments, which we'll go through. From 2011, the property was then leased to the zoo. Mr. Plumstead wanted to retire and move to Florida. So the zoo has been leasing the property since then. It's a 20-year commercial lease. So going over the accomplishments that we have done in 2010, growth of an attendance, which Calvin was referring to. I gave you some actual numbers. 18K in 2010, 110K last year. Tremendous amount of growth. Again, our community is there to help us all along the way, but we are now drawing people out of Baltimore, away from the Maryland Zoo. We're drawing people from Pennsylvania, clear out the Lancaster area. We're drawing people from the Philadelphia area now, and we also get Delaware. So we are now more of a regional stop for people to bring their kids. We have brought several jobs to the community. When we first took over, there were 2 zookeepers, no maintenance staff, and no admissions staff. We have grown our employees up to a staff of now 25. We have 3 distinct departments where we have admissions, we have maintenance, and we have zookeepers. We have raised the bar as far as our professionalism with our employees. Our zookeepers all have a 4-year college degree before they're allowed to work at Plumpton Park Zoo. Educating the next generation is a big thing that we are very proposed to the community. We have brought in our keepers who have that education background. They do the zoo camps in the summer for the kids, and any type of camp that we go, we do outreach programs where we can take some animals out. We don't have a big enough staff to go very far, but we do where we can in the area. I think the biggest highlight, which everyone here probably knows, is our conservation efforts. We have built a state-of-the-art Giraffe Conservation Center, and that was all for one animal. I told you I have a hard time getting through this. But if you look at our Facebook and social media, I apologize, Jimmy was a big part of our lives. We are the highest rated zoo in the area according to Google. So I'm going to digress and go back to attendance. If you look at the screen, you will see the definite rise in attendance. 2 things to note over the years. 2013, we had a big boost. We had baby bears. We offered come pet a bear for $5, and we probably had 1,200 people standing in line waiting to come in. 2020, you'll see a little dip. 2018 was a little dip. 2018 was a very bad weather year. 2020, of course, was COVID. But we've come back very strong in 2021 with 110 in attendance, and early numbers coming in this year, we could be on the same path. When we first took over the zoo, we weren't sure what the capacity for that zoo could be. Ed and Sam only ever had 18 or 20,000 go through. We're up to 100. Can we get to 200? We don't know. With the community's help, we think we can. Conservation efforts are a big part of any zoo today. We're trying to save a species. You pick a project and you work with it. Our project is going to be, of course, giraffes. Jimmy was a big part of that. We built a brand new Giraffe Conservation Center. It is state-of-the-art. It has radiant floor heating, so those giraffes are at 70 degrees from their feet to their head, which is the perfect way to actually raise a giraffe when you have a big building like that. The building we built will house up to 6 giraffes. We brought in Annabelle for Jimmy. Unfortunately, Jimmy was a little too old and couldn't complete the process, so to speak. So now we have Kazar, who is a year younger than Annabelle. So we are going to continue down our conservation of giraffes. What Jimmy has taught us is that giraffe in the wild, reticulated, which is what Jimmy was, there are less than 8,700 left in the wild. We have chose Jimmy to create a legacy. We want to do research. We want to start doing AI with giraffes. And I will tell you how that's very, very important in the world. It's very difficult to ship a giraffe from Africa to the States. But if we can become successful at AI, it's very easy to ship sperm. Where that becomes important, all the giraffes that are in the United States, very few are pure. There's not enough genetic diversity. There's not enough animals to have genetic diversity. There's only 2 places in the world right now that has been successful with giraffe AI, and that was Canada and also over in Africa. So we chose to do that research. If we're successful, we will be the first in the United States to have AI giraffes. And I think that would put Rising Sun on the map if we could be that successful. And if you look at that news clipping, Jimmy was very important, but also very well known. Everyone in our community knew who Jimmy was. When Jimmy was euthanized, he was the oldest male giraffe in the world. He went all throughout the United States, Texas newspaper, Chicago newspaper. That's a clip from Italy. We actually have friends that live in Italy, and they sent us a copy of the MSN news thing about Jimmy that made it to an Italian paper. Social media. When we first took over the zoo, there was none. Everything was word of mouth with Ed and Sam. So we started Facebook. We started all the social media platforms. You have the Twitter, the Instagram. Currently, we have over 63,000 followers on Facebook. It's actually more than Maryland Zoo. We are the highest number of followers in Cecil County. So all the followers in Cecil County, they are following us. So we're doing great on that front. Google, I'm sure everyone's looks at reviews on Google before you go somewhere. Out of 5, we are 4.5. So we're doing very well. I'd like to take a break here and hand some over to my staff. I'm going to start with Connor. Connor's going to introduce himself and also have a surprise for people.
I'm going to take that to hand me. Hello, my name's Connor Stout. I'm one of the Zookeeper 2s at Plumpton Park Zoo. That is our senior zookeeper role within the zoo. I've been there for 2 years now. I am one of our head educators as well as our main reptile keeper at Plumpton Park. In my time there, I have worked with our used to be limited number of reptiles, and sadly, back in 2020, towards the end of it, we had a reptile house fire on the premise. That fire closed down the reptile house itself. 6 animals sadly passed away within that fire, and the rest were relocated to several other areas within our zoo. All of those guys have been living out their time still at the zoo, usually serving as educational roles, but we've been working towards rebuilding that reptile house with the help of the community. We had a lot of outreach after the fire, a lot of donated money as well as donated labor towards rebuilding. We're still working towards it, and in preparation, we have worked with slightly more reptiles in our collection. This gentleman here is Houdini. He is what's called a Argentinian black and white tegu. As you can see, he's a little bit curious of being in front of a crowd. He's come out to educational events because these guys are actually a relatively calm reptile that can be put in front of children, behave well, and really help us start bringing out these reptilian animals as more of a calmer presence, whereas there's a lot of fears over non-furred animals that these guys serve as a very useful educational subject in front of children. We do summer camps at Plumpton Park where we actually bring quite a large crowd every year in partnership with Cecil County College, and reptile camp being one of them. So we usually have several educational ambassador animals that go to those summer camps that the kids meet throughout the week, or in the case of our larger animals, those kids will go around the zoo and get to meet some of our larger animals as well. These guys are actually native to Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. This is actually a sub-adult. He is not fully grown. When these guys are fully grown, they're actually going to be between 3 and 4 feet, sometimes on the shorter end, 2 feet. And because of his calm demeanor, these guys actually have a very large range of favorite foods. These guys are omnivorous. So Houdini here, favorite food so far is scrambled eggs or even sunny side up eggs. as well as these guys also eat some small mammals, small insects, as well as fruits and vegetables, where I hold him up top and prevent him from walking around the more he does not like it. He really likes to be walking around the classroom while I talk about him. Once he's fully grown, he'll be that size, but this guy is only about 1.5 years old. These guys can live up to 10 to 12 years in captivity, and we really do look forward to when that reptile house is fully built, that he will have a even nicer enclosure for the public to view him and move around in that space. So we're really looking forward to that. I'm going to put Houdini back. Oh, sure. Yeah. If you guys would like to see him. Of course, thankfully enough, now that he's moving around, he's even calmer. He really does not like staying in one place. But this guy is a male, which thankfully enough, the trait that you can tell that is all of the males for tegus have these large pouches right below their neck. Those are called jowls. Nice characteristic that makes it very easy for you to tell what he is. As you can see, he's a little wormy. Sure. I will always endorse somebody touching a scaled animal. My favorites at the zoo is any of our scaled guys, of course, being our reptile specialists, but previous job experiences also led me to fall in love with multiple 8- and 6-legged friends as well, so I worked with most of our arachnids and insects at the zoo. So I will always endorse anyone facing their fears and getting to touch one of these guys, getting to work with one of these guys, or any of our smaller friends as well. So thank you very much for your time. I'm going to pass it over to our next zookeeper, and thank you guys for listening to me.
Our next zookeeper is Kira.
Hi, I'm Kira Glaski. So I'm a zookeeper too at Plumpton Park Zoo. I'm also our intern coordinator. So I get to hire and recruit all of our interns. So our main recruitment in is through University of Delaware, but we bring in a lot of students in through Delaware Valley University, Stevenson University, and other local colleges. One of my favorite things about being intern coordinator is giving students opportunities to actually get hands-on with animals and animal care. So I run our animal care internship opportunity. We do internship opportunities in every single season. So our main is in summer. So a lot of students, especially in animal care, have a hard time getting different opportunities with hands-on experience with animals. So I really love our intern program here at Plumpton Park Zoo. It really brings in people from different colleges around who are majoring in different aspects of animal care and wildlife conservation, and bringing them in and giving them hands-on, working alongside us as keepers every single day, going through what it really means to be a zookeeper and getting the hands-on care with them. So I will introduce you to our little guest here. So this is our newest redneck wallaby, Joey. So he is actually around 5 months old. So he is just a little baby. So he is actually an albino. So our redneck wallabies, normal color in the wild, are brown and gray, with a red patch of fur on the back of their necks, which gives them the redneck name. This little one here is an albino, so they actually lack the melanin pigment, so they're completely white with their red eyes. So they are a type of marsupial. So our marsupials at our zoo, they are born into a pouch. So these guys are actually born and they'll be raised into the pouch for about 30 days while they're completely just nursing. They're underdeveloped when they're born. And then as they grow, around 7 months, they'll stay out of the pouch and eat and they graze. So our redneck wallabies are a herbivore, so they do a lot of grazing on grass. They're from Australia, so in Australia they're actually known as pests, kind of like our white-tailed deer. They're very populated in Australia, so they'll do a lot of grazing, so farmers can find them as pests. But these guys will start grazing, and once they're out of the pouch, they fully will start grazing. And adult wallabies can actually have 3 joeys at a time. So once one is out of the pouch and fully grazing, they'll stick around mom, but they can also have another one in the pouch developing. And while there's one developing, they can actually have a fertilized egg growing also at the same time, which will lead to 3 different offspring. So, one thing I really like about our zoo is our different breeding programs, our different animals that we have available, and our different species. As a keeper coming in, I am from upstate Pennsylvania, so I am not from this area at all. One of the greatest things I really enjoyed coming here is our small family aspect of it. I really enjoy working alongside all of our other keepers here. It really is a tight-knit group and gives us all the experience working with a ton of different species, all of our different types, all our areas of different animals. So we get to work with all our small little babies and helping raise alongside our large carnivores from big and small. So I will lead it off to our animal care supervisor next.
Can you walk around with the wall?
Yeah, walk around. Come on. So this little guy was actually pulled today. As they're developing in the mother's pouch, we periodically will check on them. We're always pulling to bottle feed them, to use them for education so the children can learn about them. So when a joey is about 1,200 grams, it's usually the ideal weight to pull at that point and bottle fed. So this little guy was actually pulled today. So the next keeper up will be my animal care supervisor, which would be Charlene.
Hi, so my name is Charlene, and I'm the animal care supervisor as well as enrichment and training coordinator here at the zoo. So I kind of oversee all of our animal care, all the zookeepers, but I also work with our maintenance, with our directors, and with our admission staff, making sure the zoo's running okay and seeing where we can help out. So today I have Tolly. He's a 3-banded armadillo. So these guys are from Brazil area and upper Central America. So Tolly here, as you can see, he's kind of curled up a little bit as a ball. These guys are actually the only armadillo species that can curl up fully into a ball. So if he were to be threatened right now, like if I were to mess with him a little bit more, he can fully close up and kind of just curl in. So that way he has nothing that's soft exposed, and he has all this hard armor plates. Really cool thing about these guys is that his plating here on his head, it's actually unique for each individual. So it's kind of like our fingerprints. So the pattern that he has up here would be different than another 3-banded armadillo. Totally starting to wake up a little. A really cool thing, if you guys see, he's got his little nose and some claws. So they really like to eat insects. So they use their claws for digging for different insects, whether it's in bark or in the ground. And they are slightly blind, so he can't see as well with his eyes. So he uses his nose a lot to smell for those insects and different things. One of his favorite treats here at the zoo is mealworms. And that's one of the things we like to do for him, like enrichment-wise, is we'll hide them in different things and hide them around his enclosure, so we'll have to look for him. And it's really unique because like he's one of our ambassador animals we bring around to the zoo for kids. So we can show them how he searches by like hiding a few mealworms and letting him run around and try to find them with his nose. Yeah, buddy, I know. So I actually am from this area, from Cecil County. I grew up here my entire life, and the zoo has been one big thing that I've like visited as a child. You know, all of the elementary schools usually come. So I grew up coming to the zoo. I was a volunteer back in 2014 and 15, and then I became an intern about 2017-16, and then I've been an employee ever since 2017. So the zoo has always been something here for me, and I'm really glad that I've been able to kind of continue and pursue my interest in being a zookeeper in the field. And like Cheryl was saying earlier, you know, we're working towards giraffe conservation, so it's really nice because I'm the lead zookeeper right now, working with Annabelle to work towards AI. So we had some professionals come in to kind of help us and show us what we should be doing and how to get there. So like you guys at home might have pets, you guys could train them, you know, to sit, to lay down, things like that. So I'm going to be training and working with Annabelle. So everything we're doing medical-wise and stuff like that is all up to her. It's all voluntary. So if she doesn't want to participate, she can leave, but it's something we're working with her so that what we're doing is all up to her. he's getting a little rowdy. If you want, I can walk him around for you guys to see a little bit closer. Yep, so he's got like a little bit of hair and fur, and the shell out here is all made of keratin, just like your hair and nails. So it grows just harder as a plate.
He's like, no pictures.
So he's about 5 years old. We've had him for about a year or two.
Thank you guys for taking care of them. So we'll get back to why we're actually here. We're actually here to hopefully to ask for some help. A little bit of history. Mr. Plumstead and Sam Connor, I'm sure everyone knew, were partners. We leased the property from them, and all along, Ed has always told us that he wanted the zoo to be his legacy. He wanted the zoo to go on forever. And he was ecstatic when we came over to actually perpetuate what he was doing. Mr. Connor as his partner, kind of a silent partner, so to speak, as far as the zoo goes. Mr. Plumstead would show us trust that he had drawn up where the zoo would actually be the beneficiary upon his death. There is some ongoing litigation with that, so everything I'm saying is of my opinion. I cannot disclose too much because we are in the middle of a litigation process. We are trying to push through to get the inheritance that Mr. Plumstead had promised us. Unfortunately, the trust was changed unbeknownst to us after we leased the property, and there are some pending issues that go along with that. Since we started litigation, we just recently found out that all 3 wells are now contaminated at the zoo. They have a high nitrates level. None of them are salvageable without putting some kind of filtration system. We are getting pricing for that, and we're getting pricing from a simple filtration all the way up to a reverse osmosis, which could be several $100,000 worth of issues that's going to be left for the zoo to take care of, which is one of the reasons we kind of asked the town if they could help. Back to us with the lease, if Mr. Connor is not willing to sell to us, we have to consider whether we're moving or not. If we can get through this litigation to our advantage and he either allows us to buy it or follows through on the inheritance that Mr. Plumstead had promised, we want to stay. The promise is we have to deal with Sam Connor right now, and we don't know where it's going to lead until litigation is done. We wanted the community to know what's going on. And again, we will keep everyone informed. However, we have to get through the litigation process. So we came up with some ideas, hopefully. Speaking with the town and the community, we want to see if the community continue to help us like they have in the past, whether we can create a partnership with Rising Sun. The town already has 2 parks. We're aware of that. So why would they want to partner? There's lots of things that can happen as a partnership. I know Calvin has bantered some ideas around with us when we went to him. We can have shared events at the zoo, and they could be all open to the community. Rising Sun can help us possibly with some park services. It would be classified as a park. Then we sit back and how we benefit Rising Sun. We go back to that attendance. We have 110,000 people coming through our zoo. I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's pretty high. Those people that are visiting us are venturing into Rising Sun. Cup of coffee, sitting down at Bucks. The local businesses are definitely, or should be, benefiting from our draw, bringing that many people into the community. And we don't know where that is. We don't know if it's 100 is going to be topped out, or can we get it to 200 to 250? We think we can. We just want to stay there. We talked about getting clean water to the zoo. We know Rising Sun has had a way of possibly doing that. We're venturing out to see if that can happen, because we have to worry about the safety of the animals. Obviously, nitrates in the water and the animals are drinking that. At some point, I'm going to have health issues with animals because of the high nitrates. We also asked whether they could come up with some financial assistance to help us acquire the property if we get to that part of the litigation. Could they help us get grants to purchase the property? Could they help us purchase the property? We're up there, and there are a lot of different ideas going back and forth. We wanted to reach out to the community to see how the community can help us so we can stay. The future of Plumpton Park. Our biggest challenge is we want to stay. We don't want to move. I think anyone can realize moving that amount of animals to a different location would be a nightmare. I don't want to go down that path if I don't have to. We're happy where we are. We know the community's happy with us. We want to make sure that we can stay and grow. We want to keep the animals healthy. Clean water is an option for that. We have to have that clean water coming through. Our wells are not going to be able to sustain what we're doing. We want to provide protection for the zoo. An avenue for us is to get the zoo accredited by a trade organization in the zoo community. Right now, there's 2 or 3 different trade organizations. I'm not sure if anyone's aware. You have American AZA and you have ZAA, the Zoological Association of America. There's also a humane accreditation that you can get for animal welfare. We want to get any and all, if we can, and work towards that. It requires a lot of upkeep with the animals, a lot of safety with the animals, as well as a lot of the buildings for the animals to go through that accreditation process. Where that benefits us if we're accredited, I think all of you know there's animal activists out there that would love to shut down every zoo they could possibly do. If you are an accredited zoo, it provides some protection against those animal activists. With no accreditation, they will make you a target. So we're always back to that attendance because we know that drives a lot of our revenue. We don't know where that number's going to top out. We're going to keep pushing, and we're going to see where it tops out. We just don't know. We thought 100,000 was a tall order back in 2010. Well, guess what? 10 years later, we made it. Can we another 5 or 10 years to get 200? We want to try. Now, with Jimmy's history, we want to be on cutting-edge research with giraffes. There is so much information out there that nobody's actually bringing that information and bringing the science for the research. We want to do that AI. We want to get that genetic diversity. This giraffe that are in the States, at some point, there's so few of them that the genetic diversity is just not there anymore. If we can make AI happen, then we can start shipping giraffe materials into the States, and we won't have to worry about genetic diversity because we're going to have it on our own. And quite frankly, if we can be successful with that, we will be the first, and everyone's going to be wanting to come to this area to see that baby that was born with AI. I did put a little bit of a sign there. My husband and I were traveling down in Louisiana. We took this picture in the airport. And we went through the airport, and they're like, come see a real giraffe. Well, wouldn't Rising Sun want a picture like that? Come see a real giraffe. We have them right down the road from here. So I thank all of you for sitting through this. I hope our entertainment was good. Does anyone have any questions that I can help with? That's a good thing. I mean, you all understood what I said.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right, moving into citizens' input. Would anyone like to speak this evening? Hearing none, Moving into staff reports, Town Administrator.
I don't really have too much of a report. At 13 Mount Street, we did issue a building permit for a new residential property on Mount Street. I have met with a developer who is interested in a residential, fulfilling previously conceptualized residential developments out just outside the town itself. The town is making good progress on its broadband initiative of bringing broadband out to the Route 1 corridor. At the last meeting, I was asked about the paving on Pearl Street, so I just wanted to give an update on that. The town was scheduled to repave Pearl Street, and the reason why we did not move forward with that was because we had been awarded a grant to put the broadband service in there and to also replace some undersized water lines. And so we did not want to spend, a couple $100,000 paving Pearl Street just to turn around and tear that up. Our project is for doing the broadband and running the new water lines is set to kick off around mid-July, August of this year. So by Christmas time, we should be completely done, all the new water lines and the broadband, and then we can move forward with putting the repaving Pearl Street.
Thank you, Town Administrator. Assistant Town Administrator.
I do have a few things this time, Mayor, that I'd like to talk about. The stop sign, the new stop sign at Wilson Avenue is going to be in place probably in the next couple of weeks. We do have everything for that. We are working on the Don't Block the Block initiative, that we have the signs in for that and getting ready to paint that in the next couple of weeks. We have started flushing. We have 103 fire hydrants in the town, and we've started flushing those hydrants. We have one more night of flushing. We did 78 last night, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be out there tonight doing the remainder of those. While we're flushing them, we're also going to double back and flow test all of them so that we can have that information for builders and the fire company if they need it. We are very fortunate to have a new employee that has joined us, been with us about 4 weeks, Juanita Giles. She is our new administrative assistant. And other than that, I think things are going really well. We're going to be working on those bees. We are aware, and we are going to get back out there tomorrow and start working on the bees that are over at the pavilion.
Thank you, Assistant Town Administrator.
You're
Police Chief.
welcome.
I have a few things. May 15th is the start of National Police Week. As many of you know, as everyone knows, we've been villainized in the media a lot lately. But if you take the time to look at the service that's provided by the small department you have here in Rising Sun, you would be amazed. We have over 100 years of service combined with the amount of officers we have, and that's not very many because, like many agencies, we're down in manpower. Those guys never not want to assist the public, fellow law enforcement. It's often that we're called to other towns in different regions of the county to assist, and these guys will go out of their way to do everything they can to make someone's day better or make sure a fellow officer goes home. So I'd like to just give them a huge shout out, a thank you for everything that they do for the citizens of Rising Sun. On that same note, the process for hiring the additional officers has moved into another phase. They are undergoing their psychological exams, and hopefully we can get them through those and on to the next phase, which will be physicals and other types of testing. So far, we've done well with them. They're getting through the process. Next. The Maryland legislature has mandated that anytime an officer uses force, a supervisor has to respond. As you all are aware, I'm the only supervisor in the department, and it's almost impossible for me to respond to every single call. So, excuse me. So I will be going through a process to promote within our department to have those available to respond. And when you say use of force, if someone is physically taken to the ground, that is a use of force. If someone resists arrest and has to have their hands forced behind their back, that's a use of force. So it's a little bit much, in my opinion, but our legislature's mandated it, and we will comply. So that leads us to having to promote officers. And lastly, the police vehicle that we purchased back in June of last year arrived in May of this year. So it will undergo some upfitting, and hopefully we can get that out on the street and get some of our other more dangerous vehicles off the street. And that's my report, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Chief. Moving forward into the mayor's report, my comments are pretty brief this evening. I attended the Rising Sun varsity baseball game against the Oxford High School varsity baseball team at Barnstormer Stadium. It was a great event. Rising Sun had great turnout to support our young athletes. I also attended an Eagle Scout ceremony for Sean and Dylan Nolan. They both recently lost their father earlier this year, who was very active in scouting, and it was a great ceremony to honor them on achieving their Eagle Scout badge. I also attended the Friends of the Cecil County Library Foundation fundraiser this past Saturday. It was a great event in support of our county libraries. Moving forward into commissioner comments. Commissioner Braun?
I have no report.
Commissioner Pearson?
I have something for the town administrator. In regards to the nitrate problem out at the zoo, what can we do that could potentially alleviate that problem?
I would suggest that the more obvious one would be to extend water out to the zoo, to provide them with the drinking water. As the board is aware and the community is aware, we do have upwards of 1 million gallon allocation, in which we are only using about 160,000 of that right now. So we do have the ability to extend water out to the zoo. The other thing I'd like to add, I guess to give more brevity to what the zoo was suggesting in terms of the other ways we could help them, is in some type of public-private partnership that, where they're suggesting financial assistance. If we were to be able to figure out a way to go into sort of a public-private partnership, that opens up grant monies through like our sustainable community designation, which is something that Commissioner Warnick and Judy Melton, our assistant town administrator, worked really hard a couple of years ago to get us officially designated as a sustainable community. It would also enable us to go to the Department of Natural Resources if we were to somehow figure out a way to do a public-private partnership in which the zoo was a park as part of the town of Rising Sun. It would open up a lot of funding opportunities through the Department of Natural Resources, and then any type of infrastructure that needed to be done at the zoo facility itself would open us up to being able to get funding through the Maryland Department of the Environment. So there are some things, I think it's worth a discussion, to look into to see what could be worked out to help them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pearson. Commissioner Warnick?
Yep, well, first, welcome Commissioner Altenreith Past Commissioner Altenreith for attending the town meeting tonight. I was actually thinking, because, as the Parks and Rec Commissioner, I suppose, this conversation, I don't think people realize the Maryland Zoo is actually part of, I believe it's, wait, it was a little better, Patterson Park, I believe? Druid Hill Park, okay. So, I knew it was one of those parks in Baltimore City. But it's actually part of Baltimore City's park system, effectively. It's I guess, a private nonprofit organization operating within the park. So such an arrangement is not completely unheard of, certainly even within Maryland. And I believe there's USDA rural funding opportunities for zoos. So I know Thermont actually, their zoo is within, I believe, their town limits, and I know they've, Salisbury too, yeah. So I know there's some other municipalities throughout the state that have zoos within their town limits that, do work with their zoos and are able to get them some funding opportunities through some of the different federal and state programs. So, something I think we definitely should look into, so.
Commissioner Warnick, the one thing I would add too, and I'm not going to profess to know a lot about the Great Wolf Lodge, but that's an entity that is really going to be marketing a lot of people to come to Cecil County.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people that after staying a couple of days might say, you know what, let's go out and see what's out in the county, and a zoo
get a
would be
great
an
wolf.
ideal. Yeah, the zoo would be an ideal thing for people to, let Great Wolf do a lot of marketing to get people here,
Yeah.
and the town could get the residual benefit from that along with the zoo.
Yeah, I certainly see that possibility, so, yep. So I think it's a very interesting opportunity, so. With that is my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Warnick. Upcoming events, we obviously have Sunfest coming up on Saturday, June the 4th. That's from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. Town Hall will be closed on Memorial Day, Monday, May 30th. And you can see the trash recycling and yard waste schedule. Is there anything else to come before the board this evening? Hearing nothing, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.